whole retinue of what it is. And I think in that score we have the literature of a movement here. You cannot escape this as a movement. Now, what kind of movement? A little movement out in the wilderness, contemplating its navel, unimportant politically and spiritually in its time? No, I don't think so. It's not an isolated movement. It is a very great movement, very powerful movement. The massive literature we've found here certainly illustrates how massive and important the movement was. And I think it is a very popular movement. I agree with Gold. It's a very popular movement as well. But is it popular Judaism of the day? Insofar as the Messianic Zealot opposition movements opposed to the unpopular Herodian Pharisee establishment were popular, yes, it's the popular literature of the day. But it still is the literature of a movement. Is the Ayatollah popular in Iran? On the whole, yes. Does he have enemies? Yes. Are there groups in Iran that oppose him? Yes. But does he represent the mass of the people? Probably he does. I would say the righteous teacher here is that kind of figure. And even though the righteous teacher is not in control, even though the Shah of Iran or the Romans are in control, or the Herodian extensions of that leadership and their further extensions within the Jewish commonweal, the Pharisees, and parties like the upper class Sadducees allied to them are in control through military power here, that does not mean that that's the popular movement among the people. One of my objections to the gospel and New Testament criticism generally is that I agree that Jesus or the Messiah or whoever is the messianic figure of the time was a popular leader. He was a popular leader, and that's one of the reasons for his elimination, because he did move masses of people, and he was popular across the broad breadth of the countryside and was responded to by large numbers of the common, simple people, if not the establishment. You cannot then transfer that into an accusation that the Jews killed Christ. The Jews cannot kill their own popular leader. You can't have it both ways. You can't have him followed by masses of people in the countryside and then make an accusations that the Jews killed Christ. It's like saying that the Americans killed John Kennedy. Americans didn't kill John Kennedy. A small group or a single group or a bunch of a clique of people did, but the American people were largely for him. Same thing for these messianic leaders. The mass of the people were for them. I think the same thing for this literature here. I think it's a very popular movement. I certainly think it's messianic, and I agree that it is a kind of popular Judaism, but the popular Judaism of a movement that was opposed to the establishment. It is not just any old literature. For instance, it's not literature out of Pharisee libraries. It's not literature out of upper-class Sadducee libraries. It's not literature out of Herodian or Roman libraries. It's literature out of opposition libraries, all with the same basic point of view. So I think we can go on from there a little bit. I won't talk much longer, I think, because I can see it'll go on all night. Okay, and he made, anyway, he raised a teacher of righteousness to guide them in the way. There's the way terminology again twice. First they grope for a way, then they have find the way, and now the way is the way of his heart, meaning either God or the righteous teacher's heart. It's difficult to say. And he made known to the later generations. Here's the late versus the first. You see the first versus the last? Now we're in the latter generations, the last generations. So we've got the first, last terminology in the first column of the Damascus document. But it's quite different in the New Testament as we know it. That which God had done for the last generation. The congregation of traitors. So we have traitors. Do we have traitors in the New Testament? Sure we do. Who's the traitor par excellence? Judas, who betrayed him. We have the traitor terminology in both, but it is different at Qumran. Slightly different. I don't accept the Jude stuff any way, shape, or form. To me, that's pure anti-Semitism. The very name, Judas the traitor, is Jew traitor, and it's come down in our history from beginning to end. I just do not believe that material in the way it's presented us. You must forgive me, I get passionate about that, because I take the Qumran as my guide stick. Qumran is using the traitor language, and to me it's trivialized in those presentations. And particularly I know that the Judas the traitor is a popular one. I reject it. But it may be that you're right and I'm wrong on this, and I don't want to be dictatorial. I'm just telling you what I feel. And we all can feel whatever we want, and you feel what you feel, but I'm giving you what I feel on this. And we have the traitor language here. It's all through the scrolls. It is part of the movement. It is in the Habakkuk commentary. It's in the Psalm 37 commentary. It's in all through the scrolls. Here we have it. The traitors. The traitors. That's serious accusations because they hate the traitors. These people do not love their enemies. They hate their enemies. And they hate the sons of the pit, and they hate the unrighteous, and they want to eliminate them. They want to eliminate. There's no love lost on enemies in this literature. Again, another divergence, though I think in a typically systematic way. The divergences pile up here, but always the same concepts are being wrestled with, but often reversed. Anyway, so they made known in the last generation what had been done to the last generation of the congregation of the traitors. And who are the traitors? Not Judas Iscariot. Traitors are the departers from the way. And what is the way? The way in the community rule is the way of the study of Torah. Now, I'm not advocating necessarily that you study Torah. It's up to you. And you know me, I'm not a very good Torah person. But I want to understand this particular group. So the fact of the matter is that the way is the study of the law. This way is the study of the law. The departers from the way we are going to get here are allied to the liar. The traitors and the liar are together. And that's exactly the same in the Habakkuk commentary. So then people tell me, this is 2nd century BC, Mr. Cross says. This is 2nd century BC document. How come, Mr. Cross? Because one fragment which I never showed you has a 2nd century BC script that I identified as 2nd century BC script. Therefore, that is a 2nd century BC document. Mr. Cross, how do you know that the person who was using the 2nd century BC script, if you have identified it correctly, was not just using a classical script style and happened to be a very traditional